Bush-era tax cuts still up in the air on Capitol Hill. The Democrats have scheduled a vote later on today extending only the middle-class tax cuts, but have continued to indicate that they will let tax cuts for the highest income earners expire at the end of the year. Joining us right now for reaction is Dr. Rand Paul, the Republican senator-elect from Kentucky, and his father, Texas Republican Congressman Dr. Ron Paul. Guys, thank you very much for joining us live today.
Good to be with you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, Congressman Paul, I see you've got your congressional pin on your lapel. Dr. Senator-elect Rand Paul, what is that on your lapel?
Well, that's not 1 red cent more. The Louisville Tea Party came up with that, and we say they've taken all our money and we don't have 1 red cent more to send them in Washington.
Okay, well, that's clever. Well, then let's talk a little bit about the money and what they're doing with it. What do you think about the whole idea that the Democrats are just saying, Dr. Rand Paul, that what we're going to do, the Republicans is we're going to hold the feet to the fire of Congress, and we're not going to focus on anything except government spending and the tax hike.
Yeah, I like kind of the way Glenn Beck puts it. He says, you know, you can't be for job creation if you're against the job creators. And the Democrats they want to raise taxes on those who create the jobs, and I think that's a big mistake. The other thing about raising taxes is that businesses make predictions based on multi-year, a 5-year, 10-year plan. They've based those tax cuts that are already in existence on their plan. And I think if you change that in midstream, it's really a recipe for disaster and a weak economy to raise taxes.
All right. Congressman Paul?
Well, you know, they always say for us to correct our problems here, people have to sacrifice, and I don't buy into that. If you get your taxes raised, somebody is sacrificing. They're taking your income.
Right.
Economically speaking, and by the rules of sacrifice, we shouldn't have to sacrifice. I want to do away with the income tax. Can you imagine how many people in this country, if this income tax had been suspended 2 or 3 years ago or gotten rid of, would they have felt like this was a sacrifice?
Sure.
The real sacrifice comes when we bail out all the people who made all the money in the boom years. So the people who lose out when government quits spending, I don't call that sacrifice. I call that fairness. I mean, they get off the dole, and the people who work should get the rewards.
Congressman Paul, you know, now President Obama is proposing a federal pay freeze for 2 years. Isn't that something the Republicans have been saying all along?
Oh, I'm sure they have, and I'd be all for that, but what is that in the scheme of things?
Yeah.
It's good symbolism, and maybe it's a distraction from cutting some real spending elsewhere. So I don't want people to dwell too much on that. I don't even think a freeze is all that beneficial. You know, I've seen some statistics show that the government sector makes a lot more money than the private sector. Why don't we start cutting it? That's what we really need. But I think that's political gamesmanship that he's playing.
All right. Dr. Rand Paul?
Well, you know, if you look at the statistics recently and you look at total compensation of federal employees, they're making almost twice what the private employees are making. It's $120,000 average total compensation for federal employees. Over 20% of federal employees make over $100,000 a year now.
Right.
So I agree with my dad. We need to cut their pay, not just freeze their pay. We need to cut their pay and approach back to what the private marketplace is paying.
Okay. The doctors, Paul, we thank you both for joining us live. Get the hide-a-bed ready, Congressman Paul, because your son's moving to D.C. very shortly.
I told him I'm not going to be his cook, though.
Okay, good enough. Guys, thank you very much.